My fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We gotta take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
Holy fuck, she's actually worse than the Veep writing.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
Here's the thing to say about Kamala Harris. She may be the least charismatic and least charismatic and laziest politician I've ever seen. Like, but also just choked the most raw ambition. I like, honest to God, if you're this bad in front of cameras and in front and speaking, why would you want to do the job? This is just torturing yourself. Even my mom, who is the most CNN brained liberal, thinks Kamala is a wet noodle and a weirdo. She's a fucking loser, algorithm. Would Georgia's anti-slap suit or the home state of the Daily Beast anti-slap law has jurisdiction? It would depend on where he would file a defamation case, but there's very little likelihood they would do it. She's less charismatic than Hillary. Way less charismatic than Hillary. What? Way less charismatic than Hillary. Hillary has a certain kind of Cruella de Vil charisma. Hillary has that kind of, she brings out the evil in the wine mom, You know when a wine mom has 3 or 4 glasses of a nice cab, they start ranting about transitioning? That's Hillary Clinton right there. She brings that. So all the wine moms in America kind of got that vibe. They vibed with that. All right. Now, I don't think she's a very extremely charismatic, but there's something there, right? It's the type of, that's what Hillary Clinton represents. Now, she's disgusting in a lot of other ways. So a lot of people on net, her charisma was not a benefit, but there was something there for some people. Kamala has nothing. Totally empty suit. Like her or not, she does have a personality and charisma. Kamala, not so much. Yeah. Fucking hell, dude. That was bad.
Hi there.
According to Walker, to his ex-wife, held a gun to her head and was going to blow my brains out. Is continually rocked by reports that he lied about his past and covered up several love children. Still, the claim that he not only urged a romantic partner to have an abortion but paid for it could be the most explosive revelation yet. My mom is Kamala Harris. My mom is Kamala Harris, and she says stop. Yeah, I'm sorry. Terra Invicta. Oh yeah, I just bought that game, chat. I just bought that game. I'm excited because apparently it's this game. Basically, the premise is that aliens land on Earth. They crash on Earth today, and then what would happen, right? And there's these different, and there's an ideological this kind of like post-contact ideologies arise. Like, how would humanity react to that, right? And they have a lot of really interesting. It's really interesting ideologically. I like it. I enjoy it. I barely played it though. Brosifer, thank you for the tier 1. But one of the things that's really interesting is they're gonna have a Cold War. So I'm going to literally replicate when they have the Cold War scenario, because current politics is kind of blah, right? Like, ooh, you can make the European Union a mega state, yay! That's fine. I want the fucking Cold War version. Can't imagine treating so many women that horribly, and now he's running some kind of conservative moral authority. It's a geopolitical simulator with with hard sci-fi. I wanted to show you this chat as well. The Onion tells the Supreme Court, seriously, that satire is no laughing matter. The Onion, a publication best known for its tongue-in-cheek satirical postings on politics and world events, has taken the very serious step of filing an amicus brief before the Supreme Court. It is wading into legal advocacy by asking the High Court to hear a case about an Ohio man who was arrested and later acquitted for creating a fake Facebook page that looked nearly identical to a local police department site. Americans can be put in jail for poking fun at the government. This was a surprise to America's finest news source and an uncomfortable learning experience for its editorial team. Indeed, The Onion said the headlines surrounding this case seemed like they were ripped off the front pages of its own publication. Okay, so let's see if we can find the amicus brief, because CNN is boring. All right, here it is. Here it is. The Onion is the world's leading news publication, offering highly acclaimed, universally revered coverage of breaking national, international, and local news events. Rising from its humble beginnings as a print newspaper in 1756, The Onion now enjoys a daily readership of 4.3 trillion and has grown into the single most powerful and influential organization in human history. In addition to maintaining a towering standard of excellence to which the rest of the world industry aspires, The Onion supports more than 350,000 full and part-time journalism jobs in its numerous news bureaus and manual labor camps stationed around the world. And its members of its editorial board have served with distinction on an advisory capacity for such nations as China, Syria, Somalia, and the former Soviet Union. On top of its journalistic pursuits, The Onion also owns and operates a majority of the world's transoceanic shipping lanes, stands on the nation's leading edge on matters of deforestation and strip mining, and proudly conducts tests on millions of animals daily. The Onion's keen, fact-driven reportage has been cited favorably by one or more local courts, as well as Iran and the Chinese state-run media. Along the way, The Onion's journalists have garnered a sterling reputation for accurately forecasting future events. One such coup was The Onion's scoop revealing that a former president kept nuclear secrets strewn around his beach home's basement 3 years before it even happened. The Onion files... Wait, did they really? Mar-a-Lago assistant manager wondering if anyone coming to collect nuclear briefcase from Lost and Found. I told you, chat. I fucking told you. The Onion are goddamn time travelers. Have I not said it? Have I not said it? This is the only way that time travelers can communicate information from the future. They do so through The Onion, because the satirical presentation gives them the plausible deniability. The Onion learned about the Sixth Circuit's ruling in the case, and it became justifiably concerned. First, The Onion's business model was threatened. The only way the latest occasion on which the absurdity of actual events matched to eclipse what the Onion staff could make up. Much more of this, and the front page of The Onion would be indistinguishable from the New York Times. Second, The Onion regularly pokes its finger in the eyes of repressive and authoritarian regimes such as the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea, and the domestic presidential administrations. The Onion's professional parodists were less than enthralled to be confronted with a legal ruling that fails to hold the government actors accountable for jailing and prosecuting a would-be humorist simply for making fun of them. Third, the Sixth Court's ruling imperils an ancient form of discourse. The court's decision suggests that parodists are in the clear only if they pop the balloon in advance by warning their audience that their parody is not true. But some forms of comedy don't work unless the comedian is able to tell the joke with a straight face. Parody is the quintessential example. Parodists intentionally inhabit the rhetorical form of their target in order to exaggerate or implode it. By doing so, demonstrate the target's illogic or absurdity. Put simply, for parody to work, it has to plausibly mimic the original. The Sixth Circuit decision in this case would condition the First Amendment's protections for parody upon a requirement that parodists explicitly say up front that their work is nothing more than elaborate fiction. But that would strip parody of the very thing that makes it function. The Onion cannot stand idly by in the face of a ruling that threatens to disembowel a form of rhetoric that has existed for millennia, that is particularly potent in the realm of political debate, and that purely incidentally forms the basis of the Onion writers' paychecks. Like, it's a lot like in the tabloids and Men in Black where everything in them is true. Yeah, those are the best, news of the world is the best news source. Like, of course. At least they have those shipping lane daughters, though. Yeah. Parody functions by tricking people into thinking that it's real. Tu stultus es, you are dumb. These three Latin words have been the Onion's motto and guiding light since it was founded in 1988 as America's finest news source, leading its writers toward the paper's singular purpose of pointing out that its readers are deeply gullible people. The Onion's motto is central to this brief for two important reasons. First, it's Latin. And the Onion knows that the federal judiciary is staffed entirely by total Latin dorks. They quote Catullus in the original Latin in chambers. They sweetly whisper stare decisis into their spouse's ears. They mutter cui bono under their breath while picking up their neighbor's dogs. So the Onion know that unless it pointed to a suitably Latin rallying cry, its brief would be operating far outside the court's vernacular. The second reason, perhaps mildly more important, is that the phrases "you are dumb" captures the very heart of parody, tricking readers into believing that they are seeing a serious rendering of some specific form, a pop song lyric, a newspaper article, a police beat, and then allowing them to laugh at their own gullibility when they realize that they've fallen victim to one of the oldest tricks in the history of rhetoric. And here they're citing to another case. San Francisco Bay Guardian versus Superior Court? Super Court? I don't know. The very nature of parody is to catch the reader off guard at first glance, after which the victim recognizes that the joke is on him to the extent that it caught him unaware. It really is an old trick. Word parody stretches back to it's been a long time since I looked at sites. It's been a long time since I looked at any court sites, chat. Qui bono. It really is an old trick. The word parody stretches back to the Hellenic world. It originates in the prefix para, meaning an alteration, and the suffix ode, referring to the poetry form known as an ode. One of its earliest practitioners was the 1st century BC poet Horace, whose satires would replicate the exact form as an ode, mimicking its meter, its subject matter, even its self-serious tone, but tweaking it ever so slightly so that the form was able to mock its own idiocies. This is not a mere linguistic anecdote. The point is instead that without the capacity to fool someone, parody is functionally useless, deprived of the tools inscribed in its very etymology that allow it again and again to perform this rhetorically powerful sleight of hand. It adopts a particular form in order to critique it from within. Parody leverages the expectations that are created in readers when they see something written in a particular form. This could be anything, but for the sake of brevity, let's assume that the newspaper headline, perhaps maybe one written by the Onion, that begins in this familiar way: Supreme Court rules. Already, one could see how this works as a parodic setup, leading readers to think they're reading a newspaper story. With just 3 words, the Onion has mimicked the dry tone of an Associated Press news story, aping the clipped syntax and the subject matter. The Onion could go even further by putting that headline onto its website, which furthers a masthead and Latin motto, and the design of which parodies the aesthetics of major news sites, further selling the idea that this is an actual news story. Of course, what moves this into the realm of parody is when the Onion completes the headline with the punchline, the thing that mocks the newspaper format. The Onion could do something like, Supreme Court rules, Supreme Court rules. The Onion could push the parody even further by writing the joke out in an article format, which, say, a quote from the justices in the majority, opining that while the U.S. Constitution guarantees equality of power among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, it most definitely does not guarantee equality of coolness. And rounding off by reporting the Supreme Court's holding that the Supreme Court rules and rules totally, all worthy and touched by nobody, in perpetuity and in accordance with the Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, the ability of the President and Congress to keep pace with us is not only separate, but most unequal. How do they find a lawyer with an actual sense of humor? I don't know. As can be seen, the Associated Press form is followed straight through into the article. The rhetorical form sets up the reader's expectations for how idiom will play out. The expectations that are jarringly juxtaposed with the content of the article. The power of parody arises from that dissonance from which the reader has been drawn. Here's another example. Assume that you're reading what appears to be a boring economics paper about the Irish overpopulation crisis of the 18th century, and yet, strangely enough, it seems to advocate for solving the dilemma by cooking and eating babies. That seems a bit cruel, until you realize that you are in fact reading a modest proposal. To be clear, The Onion is not trying to compare itself to Jonathan Swift. Its writers are far more talented, and their output would be read long after that hack Swift's been lost to the sands of time. Is there anybody here who's never heard of the Modest Proposal? Has anybody here not heard of the Modest Proposal? So when the British were perpetuating a genocide on Ireland, and there was widespread famine because the British were exporting the food production of Ireland, and there was a potato blight, which was the which was the staple food of the Irish peasantry. When the staple food of the Irish peasantry was lost due to a blight, and there was a massive famine, the British used their power to ensure the export of other agricultural goods, and therefore enforced a brutal genocide on the Irish people. Millions of men, women, and children starved or fled the country. Now, while that was going on, Jonathan Swift wrote a piece called The Modest Proposal, drawing attention to the British people's and the British government's lack of care or active participation of the genocide of the Irish people by making a joke. And the joke was, I have a solution to the problem in Ireland. Why don't we let Irish women sell their babies for slaughter? And we'll we'll buy the babies for money, and it'll be the new delicacy, Irish baby meat. And then the woman will be able to feed her other children, and it'll be a transfer of wealth from the British aristocracy to the poor of the Irish in exchange for valuable baby meat. And everybody who wants to be cool and suave will eat the baby meat. And you'll solve two birds with one stone. The British aristocracy could consume the most precious of all things, the flesh of an actual infant, and the Irish will be able to get the resources they need to survive. Win-win. And we solve overpopulation. That leverage of form, the mimicry of a particular idiom in order to heighten dissonance between form and content, is what generates parody's rhetorical power. Parody needs to mimic an original to make its point. If parody did not deliver that advantage, then no one would ever use it. Everyone would simply draft straight, logical, uninspiring legal briefs instead. This is actually really cool, chat. I would recommend. I'm not going to finish this because it's very good and long, but a lot of fun. You should check it out. The Onion's Amicus brief. Pretty damn cool. Good content. The problem with the Modest Proposal was that the British would want to spend the money on a captive population. They were not spending it on the captive population. They were buying babies. Finish it! I'm not going to read 23 pages out loud. The fuck? I'm not even at the hype. I didn't even hit my sub goal on the day. You want me to do hours of voice acting? What the fuck? Dicks on Dirt, thank you for the prime. The hell out of here. That's way too much effort. Georgia to explain why they are voting for Herschel Walker. I like a candidate who understands what it's like to not understand a goddamn thing. I like his moderate stance on whether it's okay to hold a gun to your wife's head. I don't want to have voting access anymore, and if I keep voting Republican, I won't. As a woman, mother, and daughter in Georgia, I give any candidate who allegedly abused their ex-wife a big old thumbs up. Football! If I vote for him, maybe he'll finally recognize me as his biological son. Jesus. Repeated blows to the head have allowed the man to channel one of the most hateful political agendas I have ever had the honor of bearing witness to. Pretty sure he said the word God a couple times. Walker has 8,225 rushing yards in the NFL. Meanwhile, Warnock has what? 4,000 or 5,000? No comparison there. He's really big, and I think he could easily pick me up and lift me over his head. And I like to feel tiny. Oh my God. This is so good. I like covering myself in honey, going up and out into a forest and laying still in the clearing. Animals of all kinds will come up to lick you. After they realize you're not a threat and just a sweet vehicle for honey, of course. It tickles and feels good. Anyway, I just vote straight party every time. I need a quick and easy rebuttal to blurt out every time I'm called a racist. This isn't even parody anymore. These are just actual quotes. These are just actual quotes. At this point, I'm going to avoid voting for a candidate who insists he'll do good things but then doesn't, and just go right to the guy who seems confident he's going to suck. It's easier. His incoherent ramblings on issues really speak to me. Herschel will release me into the world. Rise, Herschel, so that I and my unborn hordes will be able to zoom out the womb and walk this earth forever. As senators go, CTE is about as good as Alzheimer's. I just switch back and forth from Democrat to Republican every election to keep things fair. Voting machines are programmed to automatically add 20,000 votes to anyone who won a Heisman at Georgia. Like Reagan, he has an IMDb page. Raphael Warnock, anything to get me away from those fucking insane lunatics in Washington. He's a big, strong athlete capable of making my pathetic husband feel inadequate anytime he appears on TV. Big volleyball fan. He looks like the guy from the top of the trophy. He's an unapologetic, impulsive man of aggressive action and has the domestic abuse allegations to prove it. I'm voting for the guys who want me dead ticket. He's living proof of the American dream of running a grift while having a personality disorder. That's literally everyone's dream. Oh, man. The honest to God chat, the Onion is a national fucking treasure.
I talked to Herschel about this morning, and I've known Herschel a good while. I think he's a remarkable person. I think he's the most important Senate candidate in the country because he'll do more to change the Senate just by the sheer presence, by his confidence, by his deep commitment to Christ, by the degree to which he is, he's been through a long, tough period. He had a lot of concussions coming out of football. He suffered PTSD. I talked to Herschel about
The party of Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and Newt Gingrich doesn't care if you cheat on your wife, pay for abortions, and are a complete and utter hypocrite. What a shock. What a shock. Are you watching the stream unsubbed? You're making income inequality worse. You are doing anti-praxis. We are the only Twitch stream that will not accept scam advertisers, and I will never fuck you over by selling you crap